Wednesday, May the 1st. We're going to start doing the reports on Wednesday evening so that a lot of the guys that are coming down here for the weekend can check them out Thursday and Friday. Usually when we do them Thursday, sometimes it's late Thursday night or early Friday morning before we get everything uploaded. So we're going to try to make it more convenient so people that are coming down on the lake can see it on their computers at home before they head down here. But lake level is a little over 916. And the water temperature is right about 62 degrees. Now, as far as the water clarity, you heard me talking about some of these fish bedding in 15 to 18 foot. Well, the water in some parts of the lake is as clear as I've ever seen it. And most people that have lived here all their life said it's never been this clean. There's places down by the dam that you can see the bottom 28 to 30 foot deep. And we've actually seen some beds in 25 to 26 feet. It's amazing when you get a bluebird day and no wind other than the pollen that's laying on the water, how gin clear it is. But some of the river arms, like up in Long Creek from the 86 bridge, you start to run into color. And the further you get up in there, it's got, 2-3 foot of visibility. And the James River seemed to have, in the Ants Creek area, had like a coffee brown color. And you get up there around point 11 and it turned to a pretty green with about 3 or 4 feet of visibility. Now they're running a lot of water through the lake, so like that chocolate brown color that's around Ants Creek, every day it's kind of moving down, and it'll probably filter out before it gets to like the Kimberling City area and not have too much effect on the water clarity there. Kimberling City, Baxter, Shell Knob is just gin clear. The upper white is gin clear. Now, I haven't been up to Kings, but I'm assuming that once you start up into the Kings, you'll also run into some color. Now, fish are in a full-blown spawn. I don't know what's going to happen with the weather coming up the next couple days, but you can go into just about any pocket anywhere on the lake, see anywhere from 50 to 100 beds in some of these pockets. A lot of them have fish on them. Some of them don't. They're making beds and then moving out at night, and then when it warms up, they come back up in the day. You'll see several cruising fish. You'll be going down the center of these pockets, and a lot of the bigger fish, like I had said last week, they're out there in the middle of these pockets waiting to go to spawn. And they're all they got on their mind right now is having sex. The boys are chasing the girls. So until they get that done, a lot of them aren't very interested in feeding. Now, you get in there, and if you've got some bait in there, some of those fish that aren't committed to spawning will bite some, and some of the ones that are on the beds, like if a fluke comes down or a shaky head, they'll pick the bait up to get it off their bed. Now, I had a real good fluke bite going, and if I couldn't catch them on a fluke, I was catching them on a shaky head. That seems to be kind of fading off on me here lately, the last couple of days, because I think more of them fish are committing to spawning and don't want anything to do with some of those baits. Now, them fish are going to be back in them creeks for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And when they get done spawning, they'll actually start to get into a feed mode. Now, there's a lot of other fish being caught out on the main lake from, like, say, the dam to Kimberling City, clear up to Shell Knob on the main lake gravel points and the secondary points. Now, today, there was myself and 3 other my guide friends. We took 8 guys out that we usually take out each year. We've got to begin tomorrow, but there was 4 boats, and I elected to stay shallow and fish for, the fluke and the shaky head, and we really struggled. And my buddies, and we talked to them throughout the day. Most of us, when we're guiding like that, everybody shares information, but those guys were just whacking them out there on grubs. 2 of the boats had over 50 fish in each boat. One had, in excess of 20 keepers, and the other one had, right about 20. And those were mainly, smallmouths and Kentuckys. So, we would shoot out of the backs of the creeks and go out and fish some gravel, catch a couple short fish and say, man, this ain't working. First, the wind would pick up, so I'd go back in thinking that them fluke fish would bite, but I guess make a long story short, I zigged when I should have been zagging. The good part about it is them guys that fish with me have fished with me before, so they know I'm capable of catching fish. But, like I say, my buddies today, they found that the best grub that was working for them was a 4-inch smoke with red flake, fished on a 1/4 ounce head, and they're fishing it on 6 and 8 pound line. I've been fishing mine on a loose 7-foot medium action rod, and for the most part, the fish are, real close to the bottom. So they're setting in. The fish are a lot deeper than what they normally are this time of year, probably because the water's so clear. And when you get out there on them main lake points and get in 20 to 25 feet of water, you'll see several of the fish, the smallmouths in Kentucky, spawning out there on the main lake. A lot of people think that they always got to go back in the pockets, but they'll spawn out there right on the main lake, and you can actually see them out there, see the beds. So a lot of these fish that we're catching out there, some of them probably, most of them that I seen today hadn't spawned yet. The bellies were full of eggs. There's also a lot of goggle eye out there. Hardly no largemouth, just seems to be smallmouth in Kentuckies. But for the most part, we're keeping the boat in anywhere from 30 to 35 foot, depending on how flat the bank is, and trying to cast up in there to where your bait's landing in about 15 foot or so. Let the grub hit the bottom, and then just do a slow, steady retrieve back to the boat. Now you can also fish. I've been catching some fish earlier in the week on a Carolina rig using like a little French fry, fish doctor, or a Zoom finesse worm. And if it's not too windy, what I've been doing is rigging it up on a spinning rod where you got a little bit better feel. I'm using a 3/8 ounce weight, about a 2-foot leader, and a 2-aught hook. And instead of just dragging it real slow, this seems to be working a little bit better if you're moving it across the bottom. Just, staying in contact with the bottom and doing a steady retrieve. And that's kind of the same way we're doing it with the grub. The grub's not always on the bottom, but it is when we start our retrieve. And every once in a while it'll hit the bottom, bounce off. And we're not having as much problem with the moss like we are with the Carolina rig. Some points, some areas got a lot more moss than others. Now, on that grub and the split shot, don't be afraid to mix the depth up. I mean, some of these fish are, fairly shallow on these points, 7 or 8 feet. But the most consistent bite, you seem like you got to have the boat in 30 to 35 feet. Now, with the water coming up like it was, I did have a pretty good day. Yesterday, I was up in the mid-James River above Ants Creek, and I was throwing a 3/8 ounce pig sticker Snowden jig with a little critic rod. There's enough water in some of the buckbrush up there. There's just a few areas that seem like they got 4 or 5 feet of water. Now those fish will move up in them bushes and spawn, right in the bushes. I don't know if they're pulling quite a bit of water, and it's dropping every day. If the water would stay up in that 916.5 to 917.5, there'd be quite a few bushes in the water in like the Long Creek Arm, the James River, and the Upper Kings. It'll have enough color in that water where you can get up in there and flip them bushes and flip the laydowns. Now the flukes, I've been throwing, like we talked about last week, I'm throwing shad colored flukes. This is a disco violet. The one's an albino shad. And I've been throwing some watermelon candies, but shad ones seem to be working a little bit better for me. And let me see. Now with this weather, I have been catching a few fish on topwater. Seems like if they'll come up in the center of these creeks and also on some main lake points, if they're up there chasing shad, the shad seem to be the main key. If I can get into an area that's got bait, I can usually get them to bite the fluke or the topwater. Now, as much as that water warmed up in the last 2 days, we've had bluebird conditions, 80-degree days, and it's got up into the mid-60s. With the cloud cover and rain coming in tomorrow, I mean, it could be a really good topwater day. It's going to be one of them deals that you're going to have to throw it to see. But the baits that I would throw would be like a jointed redfin, where it stays up on top of the water, got its own little wobble built into it. Or I would throw a spook, or like a Sammy, some type of walking bait. And, it's a bait that you want to be able to fish without working too fast, but you want to be able to displace some water and splash with it. With the visibility like it is, the fish are going to come a long ways for it. So it seems like it's, instead of, like a buzz bait or a wake bait that's moving real fast, I think you want a real slow bait up on top. give them fish a little bit more time to look at it. You might try it on secondary points and main lake points. Like I say, it could be phenomenal because we got the right conditions tomorrow, as long as it doesn't get too windy. Temperature's going to drop, but it's not going to affect the fish very much tomorrow. It might the following day, Friday and the Saturday. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.